Hey, it's Fox from Inferno Fox Gaming. We're continuing our ranking of the battle systems for the Final Fantasy series. If you missed that video, I'll include a link in the description below for that. For this video, we're finishing up our list with the best of the best. But before we jump in, gentle reminder about the rules. I'm not going to be ranking any of the mainline series, mostly. I'm also not going to count the story events that sometimes occur in battles, such as Leo fighting Kefka in Final Fantasy VI. Finally, this will only include the Final Fantasy games I've played, which means, again, Final Fantasy XI is not going to be in the ranking. And, as I mentioned on the previous video, this video or series of videos are inspired by the great YouTube content creator Eric Ladd and a similar video he released. I'll have a link to his video and his channel in the description below, so please make sure to check his channel out if you haven't already. So let's continue our ranking with number 10, Final Fantasy XVI 2023. Battle system, full real-time action combat, character action style. Responsive, cinematic, ostentatious. I fell in love with this game's soundtrack, specifically its battle themes, thanks in part to them being playable in Fantasian Neo Dimension. Sure, I played through the game before I went through Fantasian, but I think with how busy the game's action-based battle system is, I really didn't pay as much attention to the music as perhaps I should have. Maybe that's a note to just how intense some of these battles can be. I was surprised with how much I enjoyed fighting in this game, as it has both physical and magical attacks together, the latter without any sort of magic points. As the player progresses, more ways of attacking are unlocked, as they gain more summoned monsters, or icons as they're called here. Clive, while performing all of these, controls well and is really responsive. A number of battles require precise timing to attack enemies, especially bosses, but it also manages not to cross the Souls-like line at all, of which I and my sanity are grateful. When Clive becomes Ifrit and must do battle with other icons, the ridiculous enormity of the fights themselves reach Ashura's Wrath level, and even breaking it with some late-stage fights. These are great anime-style battles, though I love my time with the more literal, down-to-earth fights. And what was funny is, I didn't actually miss controlling any of the other party members. While there are guests that will join Clive in fights, the biggest action is done by him and him alone, so it never really felt like I was missing anything. Now, would I take an 8-bit or 16-bit demake of this game like Final Fantasy Record Keeper or Dragon Quest XI? Of course! I'd love to see how this game would translate that way in especially a turn-based fashion. Number 9, Final Fantasy X 2001. Battle system, conditional turn-based battle. Genkin, seamless, micromanagement. I stated in previous videos that my biggest issues with this entry's battle system is the rock, paper, scissors nature of fighting about 98% of all the random encounters. For every enemy the party faces, at least one of the 6 primary characters have something effective to it. Its other weakness is easily the annoying aspect of having to switch out characters and have them do any command to ensure they gain ability points. Beyond that, this battle system is stellar. It's a callback to the first 3 entries in the series, where the player has plenty of time to select their options, although there's a specific order for players and enemies to attack. This order would go on to other series such as Trails or Kaseki or single entries like Clair Obscur. For being 100% turn-based, it moves extremely quickly and there's little to no load time, which is especially impressive when compared to its PS1 contemporaries. All of the music does a fantastic job to accompany this overall faster but fluid feeling the game has. Each of the 6 characters' unique abilities match them quite well. But it also allows a lot of late-game fun once the player uses enough level 4 spheres to unlock areas across the overall sphere grid. Where the battle system shines is absolutely the boss battles. Not only are these quite challenging, requiring a smart strategy played effectively, they're also very fair to the player and provide that great feeling of satisfaction upon victory. While this entry was the first one in the series not to have been fully composed by Nobu-san, the music themes here evoke that high energy and fluidity that the battles themselves have. Number 8, Final Fantasy VI, 1994. Battle System, Active Time Battle, version 3. Ensemble, easier, exploitable. Now, are you guys surprised? My favorite entry in the series, nay, my favorite video game of all time, only took the 8th place spot? This entry absolutely has one of the best soundtracks of all time, especially with the series of battles and boss themes. The sprite work for both the enemies and the characters are fantastic, and battles themselves just are seamless. So what's the deal with this falling in this place? Perhaps it's a byproduct of me playing this game too much, but this game is just too easy. The biggest reason for this is how overpowered the espers are as it pertains to stat progression and especially learning magic. While the game itself is lauded for being half linear, half open world, it's this latter half where the weakness of said battle system become apparent. Well, there are amazing characters like Edgar and Sabin who have unlimited use to the machinery and blitz abilities. All of these become replaced with overpowered magic spells like Firaga, Meteor, and Ultima. Other characters with weaker abilities like Realm's Sketch and Mog's Dance are also endemic to this feebler balance of the battle system as a whole. But again, that doesn't matter since both characters can just learn magic and not worry about being bottlenecked by these poor abilities. If they decided to do a remake of this game, I would hope they would be in the vein of what Square Enix did for Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, and just rebalance things in its entirety. This would include limiting Edgar, Sabin, and Cyan's abilities use by having them cost magic points. And instead of them directly learning magic spells from espers, they would grant additional abilities to their skill trees. Sabin could learn a version of Pummel called Fire Pummel by equipping and mastering Ifrit's Magicite. Another game further down this list did this ability system better, but we'll get to that. Number 7. Final Fantasy V, 1992. Battle system, Active Time Battle version 2. Versatile, customizable, finite. The battle system here is often the primary reason people keep coming back to this entry. Well, technically it's the job system, but the battles themselves are where these jobs are tested, of course. The issues inherent with the jobs from the third entry have been mostly resolved by ensuring jobs like Ninja aren't overpowered and others like Monk aren't replaced by a later one. Beyond that, this is the quintessential ATB battle system that we know and love from the SNES era. One thing to note is that there is another title not yet ranked here that does the job system much better, but again, we're going to get to that. What makes the 5th entry so fun is easily how overpowered the player's party gets with the base freelancer job when they master more and more jobs. The counter to this is that the player levels are often left neglected, which can make the game very difficult, especially when there are large difficulty spikes near the end of the 2nd and 3rd acts, or if maybe someone isn't as well versed with this game's particular battle and job system. Number 6. Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, 2013. Battle system, real-time battle. Freedom, epic, time-consuming. Let it be known that I prefer to play my RPGs by myself. That said, what Final Fantasy XIV offered during the 6-month period I played it was absolutely incredible. I got through the base game's campaign and halfway through the Heavensward expansion. All of the dungeons themselves were standard MMORPG fare, requiring myself and 3 others to combat enemies, each of us with our roles of tanking, healers, and DPS. I took up the role of healer with my character, modeled after my partner, so I could find myself of most use. This didn't disappoint as I got placed into raids and dungeons almost immediately when I needed to complete them. Even being a healer, or conjurer as it was actually called, there was a very large skill tree that opened up, which allowed me enough abilities to fend for myself and double as DPS whenever it was needed in these raids and dungeons. One thing I wasn't expecting with this entry that I just absolutely loved was how much independent exploration there was on the world of Eorza. This meant there are a number of times I was fighting by myself, whether there were single enemies or even tougher ones called Fates, and I loved this exploration. It's probably my second favorite thing about the game. My absolute favorite thing, hands down, though, is the music. The battle themes were epic, though none so much as the theme that plays when fighting Ultima. Holy crap, does this track slap hard. While I played this back in 2017, there's been a number of improvements for this game since then. This includes being able to play the entirety of the base game single player, facilitating NPCs for spots in the party on dungeons, and it not costing the monthly fee to do so. This game, being an MMORPG, is intimidating enough, especially with the extremely large amount of content it has. But I recommend picking up the base game on sale so you can experience it and the fantastic battle system firsthand. And put a time limiter of 3 to 6 months like I did, because it is so easy to get lost in the fantastic world of Eorza. Number 5, Final Fantasy XII, 2006, and its Zodiac Age variant, 2007-2017. Battle system, Active Dimension Battle. Gambit, freeing, autonomous. All of the gameplay of an MMORPG, but without the fluff, such as real people. Final Fantasy XII was essentially the 11th entry's battle system, but without the tedium of having to party up for it. Add to that the highly customizable Gambit system, and we get an absolutely fantastic way of fighting enemies. The OG release admittedly gets a bit diluted insofar as having a wide open license board, allowing all party members to have any and all abilities. This is where the Zodiac Age really shines. While it limits each party member to only having 2 specific jobs, these job abilities actually make a lot more sense to the overall gameplay. Instead of having 3 freelancers in a party fighting enemies, the player can have a knight tanking damage, a white mage healing, and a foe breaker as a strong DPS. With the Zodiac Age update, Square Enix did a number of gameplay aspects, such as the ridiculous chest system from the original being omitted, which means getting weapons like the Zodiac Spear are infinitely easier in the Zodiac Age, and also overall enemy difficulty was balanced a lot better. The soundtrack to this entry is another highlight, especially the music to the various boss fights. It does a great job of upping the ante and showing the enormity of these battles. And speaking of upping the ante, the amount and difficulty of the super bosses is amazing here too. Never have I had to sweat a fight more than the Zodiac Esper fight, or tested my endurance than the Yasmat 50 million HP fight. Touching upon the Gambit system, half the fun of Final Fantasy games in particular is the setup to the fight, while the other half is executing it. Only having the setup and not the other half gets you an unfun game, aka Final Fantasy XIII. While Gambits themselves can be purchased from merchants, there's a lot of them which provide a really high amount of customizability for the player. Zodiac Age also provides 3 different loadouts of Gambits per character. I found this to be quite handy, as I had a standard battle loadout for the trash mobs, one for, general bosses, and then the one I would customize in a more detailed manner for those pesky super bosses. Number 4, Final Fantasy IV, 1991. Battle system, active time battle. Fast, linear, retaliation. Out of all the Final Fantasy titles on the SNES, the 4th entry's battle system feels the quickest and snappiest. This is surprising since it was the first entry to use the ATB battle system. Perhaps it was so fast because Squaresoft was working on a variation of this for the NES, but was able to pivot and design it for the more powerful for the time SNES. While this entry abandons the Light Warriors-based job system from the 1st and 3rd entries, we see our party members assigned to specific jobs and classes with barely any change. This linearity doesn't feel as restricted as the walking hallways of the 13th entry or even the last third of the 15th entry. Instead, it feels more like we, as the player, are following our hero Cecil's journey with his ever-changing merry band of heroes. Admittedly, some of these heroes' effectiveness is limited. Edward, I'm looking at you. Other heroes like Rydia pick up the slack and then some. I've already discussed which versions of this entry are the best in a previous video, but what I've said pretty much applies to all the versions of the game. Yes, I think all but the 3D version of the game is fairly easy, even the original Japanese one on the Super Famicom, but again, I think that's wholly attributed to me playing this entry so much. Clocking in at an 8 to 10 hour completion time, it's a great JRPG palate cleanser. What those who aren't as familiar with this entry will find with the battle system is one that's tough but fair, though filled with counterattacks, which admittedly nerfed poor Rydia pretty hard near the end game. That's okay, dear Summoner. There's a reason my older brother and I got you to level 60 before losing you to the Leviathan. Mateo for one and all. Number 3. Final Fantasy IX 2000. Battle system, active time battle version 6. Near perfection. Slow. Engaging. My only issue with this entry's battle system is just with how slow it is. If you played it on the OG PS1, it's possible those rose-tinted glasses made you forget how long it takes for the battle itself to load once hitting a random encounter, the camera to stop panning around to show off the enemy and players, and then special attacks and spells from party and foe alike to hit. Future ports help to dull the pain, though I heard the Moguri mod for Steam fixes all of these quirks in their entirety. Beyond these issues, this is an absolute gem of an entry, and a wonderful send-off for the series' last mainline entry using the ATB battle system. We're back to the characters assigned to specific jobs mechanic that really hadn't been seen since the 6th entry, with probably the best balancing between all of the characters in a mainline entry yet. It's a shame that characters like Aiko and Amarant only become playable around the halfway mark, because they're often quite fun to play as, Amarant especially. Everything about this game is just return to classic Final Fantasy for all the better and none the worse. This includes getting back to 4 members in the party. The way to learn abilities is done through equipment and accessories, and that also sort of feels rooted in 8-bit and 16-bit times, though that was never really applied in the mainline Final Fantasy series before. It just feels like home though, there's a homey sense to it. This does sometimes become an issue when abilities aren't fully learned and better equipment rolls around, but at least it's nothing as atrocious as 1 battle equals 1 experience point like in Dragon Quest 6 and 7. Number 2. Final Fantasy Dimensions. Battle system, active time battle. Fusion. Streamlined. Hiraeth. This is, hands down, the best job-based battle system for the entirety of the Final Fantasy series. I've talked about this entry on a previous video of mine shown here. Link to that will be in the description below. And it's a shame that it's not only relegated as a spin-off title of sorts, but hasn't seen any sort of a re-release beyond its wider mobile one in 2012. The overall battle system sees the return of 5 party members. This allows a great diversity of jobs to be had, which not only makes learning jobs better, since having 1 out of the 5 being a white mage isn't so daunting, but there's just a lot of jobs themselves. The main 8 characters get split into their respective worlds of light and darkness, with the crystals granting the bog standard jobs of warrior, monk, thief, and the 4 mages of white, red, black, and summoner. What makes the light and darkness split cool, beyond different standard battle music for said worlds, is there's unique jobs for each world, which are learned from guest party members that join up during the story. The light side gets the jobs of Dragoon, Bard, Memorist, and Paladin, along with a stronger version of the White Mage called Seer. The dark side gets the jobs of Ranger, Dark Knight, Dancer, and Ninja, and getting a stronger version of the Black Mage called Magus. Beyond Seer and Magus being stronger, these additional jobs aren't inherently stronger than one another, rather, they play more to the light and darkness strengths overall. The limitation of Seer and Magus to 4 of the 8 characters, once they join back up together later in the story, actually allows for some more creativity. Sometimes being placed in a box allows imagination to flow. But what by far makes this battle system shine are the fusion abilities, because it's not enough to just learn all the jobs and abilities, then rock the game with a freelancer ability like in the 5th entry. In Dimensions, by the way, Freelancer, known as Jobless, not Hornless, doesn't see any benefits from mastering any or all the jobs beyond 2 additional ability slots. Instead, stick with the jobs themselves, as using abilities unlocks the potential for triggering said fusion abilities. For example, A monk may use the ability Kick, then after the battle switch to the summoner job and use Sylph. Doing so may trigger the fusion ability called Gale Crescent, causing multi-target wind damage. While the first use of the ability triggering again is random, and it costs no magic points, but it does get permanently added to that character's fusion ability list. The best part of this? Once it's there, they can cast that ability at any time and regardless of any job. It's always fun having the ability to cast the summoning-like ability of Giga Flare as a non-magic based job, or put up major defenses with Mighty Wall, casting Protect, Shell, and Bravery on all party members with a non-mage-like party member. The battles themselves are very quick, and being a somewhat newer entry, offer quality of life improvements such as auto battle, which can thankfully speed up the process of grinding. Battles themselves aren't too difficult, and those with experience in the overall series, especially the SNES entries, will feel right at home. There is a couple difficulty swings during the progression of the story, though those whom are familiar again with any of the older Final Fantasy games know one word, and that is grinding. Number 1. Final Fantasy VII, 1997. Battle system, Active Time Battle version 4. Sleek, balanced, perfection. Man, those summon animations are long. That's it. That's the only issue I can conceivably think of with the battle system in Final Fantasy VII. And it's one that's sidestepped with the fast forward option in future ports. Squaresoft really leveraged everything that came with the jump from 16 to 32 bits with this entry, especially the battle system. Even being CD-ROM based, battles still load pretty quickly and send the player back to their place prior to battle quick as well. The character and enemy models look absolutely fantastic, the former being relieved of their Lego selves and given great form. This entry saw the beginning of 3-person parties, which feel like a step down at first, at least to me, whom had played the 3 previous entries in the series with 4 to 5 total party members. What makes the battle system so seamless absolutely is the materia system. Party members have a general semblance of a job class. For example, Cloud as a warrior, Eris as a white mage, Kate Sith as a useless piece of shit, gambler. The materia itself allows each of these characters not only the ability to cast magic, as well as cast summons, they also can add commands such as steal, throw, mime, and more. Regarding the magic portion, while all the characters get access to it, it doesn't feel overpowered like it did in the 6th entry. This is another credit to Final Fantasy VII itself on being so well balanced, though not too much that it can't be totally cheesed if one were determined enough to do so. This balance also gives challenge to a lot of the fights, specifically the boss fights. And even though I've beaten this game countless times, I still found myself lose a fight or two. And always when it counts. I remember losing the fight to the Schizo Dragon while doing a playthrough for a former girlfriend, or to Safer Sephiroth when I tried to show my older brother the ending to the game. Embarrassing stories aside, this is absolutely the best battle system of all the Final Fantasy games that I have played. And while Remake and Rebirth's action-based combat can be fun, sometimes the original is the best. And that concludes my overall ranking of all of the Final Fantasy battle systems. Let me know your thoughts of my rankings in the comments section below. Again, as I always say, I like to start dialogue with all y'all because I'm like you, love video games, and I absolutely love my JRPGs and the Final Fantasy series. Beyond that though, thank you so much for watching, liking the video, subscribing and everything, and I hope you have a great day.